always turn a negative situation into a positive situation. Michael Jordan said that, and I'm saying this. Welcome to High and Low. Good day and good night. Welcome to the High and Low Basketball Podcast. This is episode number 100 and Silas, aka episode number 129. 29 was the number worn by NBA legend Paul Silas when he was a member of the St. Louis and Atlanta Hawks, and also the Phoenix Suns. I think he was a member of those teams from 1965 to 1972. Don't quote me. To many not old enough to remember Paul Silas as a player, you'd most likely remember him as the head coach of the original Charlotte Hornets turned New Orleans Hornets. You know, he would do a second short tour as the head coach of the new version of the Charlotte Hornets. So you remember, the Hornets left Charlotte for New Orleans in 2002, then became the New Orleans Hornets, and then they would become the New Orleans Pelicans in 2013. The Charlotte Hornets, you know today, derived from the Charlotte Bobcats, who joined the NBA in 2004. I don't know if all that makes sense, but then again, you probably already know this, but I like to retread every now and then. Anyway, my name is Ike Amaechi, and I'm joined by special guest Stephen Leslie. Give this man a hand. He is back. Always nice to have Stephen back in the building. Around here, we live by a principle governed by the high and low lives of the world, which means we talk about basketball, especially and specifically the NBA, and we talk about it at any time, anywhere, north, south, east, west, high and low. This week on High and Low, we're talking about the biggest surprises and disappointments so far in this young NBA season. We know it's early. And there have been a few. Before we get to that, I do have a question for Stephen. A question about the league's morality issue with all the drama, the controversies, the real-life consequences facing the league and its personnel. We'll get into that shortly, so stay tuned. Before we lock in, let's check in, though. So, Stephen, you weren't able to be here for the last episode, the conversation that we had about bullying and all that stuff. Your name was mentioned in that conversation, by the way. So I have a feeling you would have been on the Sean side of things, because I know you listened. So would you consider yourself to be like a bully of NBA players?
Yeah, I'm a cyber bully. I can be a bully at times. I bully certain people that I work with on the podcast. They don't like me. That's why they're not here today. And it's just us two. Only you can handle it. I get it. But I can bully to the face too. But I like to throw shade.
That's the important thing. Yeah. You can do it to the face.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Just to see everyone's reaction.
Exactly. Not one of those. I think Mitch mentioned it last week. The typewriter snipers. No, you're not. Is it a keyboard sniper or a typewriter? I don't know. Keyboard warrior, typewriter sniper. I think was a phrase coined by. I don't know. Was it? I can't remember what Mitch said, but yeah, you don't hide behind the screen.
He knows those terms because it takes one to know one. That's why.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. Already getting into that heckler mode, huh?
Yep.
Anyway, Stephen, I appreciate your time this week. Thank you for joining me. Listeners, high and low lives everywhere, thank you for joining us for yet another installment of the program. Another week, another episode, more NBA, some more high and low. This week in NBA history, two giants met for the first time. On November 7th, 1959, the Boston Celtics played host to the Philadelphia Warriors. And now, in this particular game, a rookie by the name of Wilt Chamberlain matched up with Celtics star Bill Russell for the very first time. It would be the first of 94 regular season games that the two would face off over the course of their careers. Wilt averaged 30 points per game, 28 rebounds per game. Bill Russell averaged 14 points per game, 23 rebounds per game. Those numbers are just insane. 28 rebounds per game over the course of 94 games against each other. That's insane. Although Wilt had the bigger stat lines, Bill Russell's teams won 57 of those 94 games. And we're not even counting the playoff games. Now, in those playoff games, as we know, nobody beat the Celtics. So, yeah, Bill Russell won that matchup. Anyway, that's a little something for the NBA history nerds. Things are certainly happening in the NBA today, so let's talk about it.
Let's talk about something important.
This year alone, 2022, we've seen Miles Bridges catch a domestic case after pictures of his battered partner surfaced. Robert Sarver was exposed for his debauched behavior as the owner of the Phoenix Suns. That was quickly and conveniently usurped by news of a scandal within the Boston Celtics organization, a scandal that involved then Celtics head coach Ime Udoka. It got messy. Now we've watched the Spurs hand Joshua Primo, Canadian Joshua Primo, his walking papers after allegations that he exposed himself to a female staffer. I mean, come on, man.
How many times?
9 times.
Okay.
9 times. Like 9 times?
Yeah, he's trying to get.
Like, what's happening?
Trying to get to Bill Russell in championships.
I mean, I can only imagine what his motive would be. I'm trying to be careful. I am trying to be careful here. I'm just trying to put myself in his shoes. I'm trying to have some empathy here, and I have empathy for the female staffer. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's horrifying. But I'm trying to understand why a person would do this. Not once, not twice, but 9 times. Anyway, Kyrie. Let's talk about Kyrie for a second. He stepped in some dookie again, tethering himself to a book and movie with anti-Semitic tropes. The league, honestly, this league has been riddled with controversy, immoral antics, if you will. I mean, we even have Anthony Edwards putting his foot in his mouth where he had to walk it back and apologize. Honestly, I mean, I could chalk that up to just bad behavior by privileged athletes, but this is a league that prides itself on its progressive ways. You know, like it puts its code of conduct high up there. The NBA has painted itself into a corner where it has to be held to a higher standard, but the aforementioned situations lower that standard, which begs this question: does the NBA have a morality problem? What do you think, Steven? So,
Rick James via Dave Chappelle said it best. They should have never gave these money. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, obviously it's smacked in the face. The NBA does have a morality problem. With everything that you said that's been going on, it's one thing after another. And I don't think the NBA really addresses it well enough. Yes. The NFL, you know, if you commit like a crime or anything simple, you know Roger Goodell's coming down hard on you because he doesn't want anything with like the breast cancer awareness month or the there's like the purple ribbon for like women who are abused. He doesn't want any flack for anything. Michael Vick in the dog era, like anything that happens, man, you know it's coming down swiftly. The NBA is like, you know, slap on the wrist kind of thing. That being said, though, I think there's a double standard in the NBA with celebrities in sports. So you like there is a financial aspect to everything with the NBA because, you know, they sign these mega deals, these mega contracts. So I looked at it and, you know, they had the China situation with Daryl Morey when he was on Houston, right? He had to retract things that he said. Why is that? Because, you know, the NBA needed their viewers in China to be at ease with whatever he said. Then you got this Kyrie stuff, and he tweeted a documentary, and I'm like, is it bad? Yes. Is it as bad as they're making it seem? I'm like, I don't understand why the NBA isn't putting out a statement like they do when, you know, the Black Lives Matter situation happened in the bubble. Why aren't you putting out a statement towards Amazon saying you guys should take this off your platform? You're benefiting from this, and that's why our player like shared it out to the masses. They can't do that because there's money attached to that, because Amazon is in a deal to potentially buy an NBA team and also broadcast some of their games. So you can't attack Jeff Bezos and Amazon. I even looked at some of the things that Kyrie was saying, and I know his owner.
What did you say?
Joe Tsai wanted to sit down and have a conversation with him. I looked him up. And I'm like, but this guy is not. He's bad too. His company, they were supporting and funding the technology used in China for like the Muslim genocide, where they had a lot of Muslims that were in barbed wire camps and then they destroyed mosques. And I'm like, this is crazy because they have so much money, and he's an owner. You can't, not saying attack, but you can't talk to him about, hey, you did this. This is bad. But you're gonna talk to Kyrie and you're gonna stretch it out. And yes, he should know better. He obviously doesn't know better because it's still going on. As bad as it is, it's like it's the same thing with the NBA. They don't come down heavy-handed when they should. And I don't know.
It almost makes it worse though, because it's like, then it is because of financial gain.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're gonna look the other way because we stand to lose a lot of money if this gets messy. That means that there is no moral code.
There isn't. We should know this. We even had that ref who was what was he? He was cheating with the mob, right?
Yeah, Tim Donaghy. Mm-hmm.
I watched a documentary about him, and apparently the FBI had other refs, and the NBA just no, they leak stuff out so they can just pin on this guy, get him out because the money's attached. The NBA doesn't want to lose a business, and it's unfortunate that Kyrie's in this situation, but a lot of us could have predicted anything coming out of from this season. We would have bet that Kyrie would have been in trouble or out or something or a different headline. So they were just waiting for something. The terrible part is he won't apologize, and he's even up until now, he hasn't gotten a suspension from the league.
Yeah,
he's gotten a suspension from his team, but not from the league. So the league's still not doing anything. It just takes a big voice to speak out to that kind of stuff. I guess it would have to be a Chris Paul or a LeBron James.
But even their silence speaks volumes with things like this. You know what I mean? Like, is LeBron going to comment on every single incident that happens in the NBA? No, of course not. Right? Is Chris Paul going to do that? No, probably not. But you don't hear players speaking up in these situations because I think, we all know that in the NBA, the players, they regard themselves as being brothers. It's a brotherhood. They kind of cape for each other. But right is right and wrong is wrong, man. If somebody does the wrong thing, it sends a bad message when there's nothing to indicate that any sort of accountability has been taken. It just seems like there's so much happening in this particular year. 2022 has just been,
and it just started.
Riddled.
The season just started. It's a mess. I can see it getting worse. And I don't know if some people want the NBA to put their foot down. They can't, because players will revolt because it's always been a league like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you change the culture. I don't know what they're going to do. I think I've said it before. I think last year, I forgot what the question was that you asked, and I said the surprise thing to me was that the NBA commissioner is weak. He's not like Stern. He's one of the most terrible commissioners, and this is just showing he's very timid and quiet. You don't hear from him when things happen.
No. Honestly, man, you brought up a really good point in terms of Roger Goodell. I do not like Roger Goodell, but the one thing I do respect is his decisiveness. If a player commits an act that is illegal, and especially if the player is found guilty in that situation,
even innocent. Deshaun Watson was just innocent by a judge, and Goodell said, okay, you're still getting 11 games because morally that's incorrect what you did.
Exactly. So regardless, like if you find yourself in a situation that is immoral, let's just use that word since that's the question of the day. Roger Goodell will come down on you.
Pause.
He will come. Yeah. Pause. Big pause there. He will bring the hammer down, so to speak. But Adam Silver, I mean, he's just caressing them with a feather, man.
Yeah. Soft.
So just another reminder to High and Low Lives, if you want to leave a question for us to answer on this show, drop a DM on TikTok at More High and Low. and on Instagram at Get High and Low. I'll put those links in the show notes. This week, we had to opt for the producer question just because I think there were some important things for us to discuss. And don't worry, Bigums from Thousand Oaks, California, I will get to your question next week. Actually, Bigums, just drop me another question. I'll get to it. Don't worry. Anyway, it's time to drench this segment with rubbing alcohol and put it to bed. Let's put it to bed. But a bed of rusty nails, sharp and rusty nails. When we come back, we're looking at the biggest surprises and disappointments of the season so far. We'll be right back with more High and Low. This moment is brought to you by High and Low listeners. This week, we had listeners share their top 5 NBA scandals of all time. This should be a fun one. We heard from Aleem in Toronto, Canada. Starting with number 5, he's got Kobe Bryant's rape case. Allegedly, of course. Number 4 is Tim Donaghy, the cheating referee. Now, Donaghy, we know, was found guilty of match fixing back in 2006. Number 3, according to Aleem, is the malice at the palace. It's still wild to think that professional athletes, grown men, lost control, ran into the stands to physically fight spectators, throw hands. Wow. Number two is Gilbert Arenas bringing guns to the Washington Wizards locker room, his team locker room. Arenas pulled out 4 guns on his teammate and asked him to choose one. This actually happened. This is not a movie or a TV show. That actually happened. And the number 1 scandal, according to Aleem, is, and this is in his words, Michael Jordan's retirement or suspension due to gambling. Okay, and let me mention that this is just conjecture, but an amazing theory, Aleem. Amazing. Love this list. This is a good reminder that the league is no stranger to drama. Surprised you didn't have Sterling up there. Maybe he's number 6 on your list, Aleem. Anyway, thank you. Appreciate you, Aleem. Appreciate you, listeners. Now let's get back to High and Low. We are back. I'm Ike Amaechi, and I'm here with Stephen Leslie. We pay a good deal of attention to what happens off the court, like we were just talking about. But let's turn our attention to the reason we all consume the NBA product in the first place. The actual basketball being played on the court this season is still young. Yes, it is very young. Much can happen between now and April, so I try to temper my excitement. Regardless, I'm still intrigued by some of the surprises, some of the surprise starts by teams, surprise performances by players, and I'm also intrigued by some of the teams that aren't living up to their preseason billing. But let's start with the teams that are surprising us. What team has surprised you the most so far, Stephen?
The Cleveland Cavaliers.
Mm.
They are looking so special, and they're
Mhm.
in the East, so it's kind of like everyone had as a 2-man race between the Bucks and Boston. But man, the Cleveland, man, they got Mitchell, LeVert, Mobley, Allen, Garland, Love. They're a real basketball team from start to finish. I don't really see any weaknesses because they have a mix in lineups. They got bench that play with starters. They got vets that play with young guys. They got a fast lineup. They got long wingspan lineups. Their coach is just coaching. It's not like a celebrity gig. And I watched them play the first 5 games and I was like, okay, they're surprising me. And then I watched them play Boston, and the way they played Boston, and then Garland could just switch up the pace. I'm like, bro, this team is secretly a problem. I don't think they have a lot of primetime games, but they are a problem. They acquired Donovan Mitchell, and he's turned them into a championship contender. Yeah. And that's it's good for the city of Cleveland. It's good for the NBA. But they surprised me the most.
I'm going to go on record and say that Cleveland is they're going to be my favorite team to watch. Mm-hmm. Donovan Mitchell is exciting to watch. but I just didn't like watching him in Utah. I like watching him in Cleveland. This team is constructed in a very interesting way. Cleveland, I like it, man. You're zigging, and I'm going to zag a bit. I'm going to say Milwaukee has surprised me with their start. And not because I didn't expect them to be the best team in the NBA, but I just thought they'd pace themselves, man. I didn't think they'd come out this hot. I thought they'd be in the middle of the pack.
You're thinking wrong, because Giannis has no chill. That guy
None?
only knows 100%.
He is not. He's taking. There's no mercy in this man's vocabulary.
He didn't stop in the offseason either. He was going 100% for Greece.
But I just thought that this team would pace themselves, seeing as the regular season is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? And if they're in that 4 position, no one's going to think that, oh, things are wrong in Milwaukee, and then they could just turn it on. It looks like right now. It just looks like they're playing for souls. Their offense hasn't been off. It has been off the charts, but their defense, though, crushing. Like, they're number 1 in the league. Now, mind you, they've had a soft schedule so far, but like you said, Giannis has no chill. Like, he drives this team. He's the engine, and it's burning hot.
Middleton's
and I'm
not
just
even
surprised. There. Sorry?
Middleton's not even there.
No, that's scary.
Yeah.
But let me just give a quick shout out, because we just talked about Donovan Mitchell. I have to admit, Utah surprised me. They're surprising me. Not a huge surprise. Actually, you know what? I should say it's a huge surprise, because I just don't know what's happening there. It won't last, not even close. But I have to admit, it's been fun to watch Lauri Markkanen play like the player that the Bulls thought they were going to get back in 2017. Now, again, this can't be sustained, and you know that Danny Ainge is upset right now because he wants that number 1 pick. But I mean, it's been a nice surprise. They've been able to do this with a tough schedule, tougher than Milwaukee's. I think they beat Memphis twice, and Memphis is supposed to be a top 3 team. But hey, interesting team, man. I'm also a bit surprised that it took the Lakers 8 games to convince Russ to come off the bench.
Relax on that. You shouldn't.
I'm just saying. I thought it would be 20. I think my number was 20.
He's playing okay. I will say that much. Coming off the bench, it's working out.
It is working out. For the record,
he's not the problem.
Listen. I'm on Team Russ. If he ends up coming off the bench for the rest of the season, I hope that man wins 6th Man of the Year. I just need him to win something. He needs a win. People need to get off him. Get off of Russ. Leave Russ alone.
All right, you guys, what's next?
Players. Who is the player that's been the biggest surprise for you?
For me, the biggest surprise that I had was Lauri Markkanen. He has Utah winning games, like you said. They're staying competitive in close losses. And I had no idea he was this good as he is. And neither did the Utah Jazz. They did not know that this is what they're getting.
You think so?
100% they didn't know. They thought they were going to tank. Come on. Think they traded to win games? No. No. But since you said his name and I said him, I don't want to copy you, so I'll swing over to 2 individuals really quick that I'm surprised in, and one is Kawhi Leonard. I heard all this stuff in the offseason about, the Clippers are championship contenders, this and that and the other. Kawhi's back, he put on weight, and I said, coming off an ACL injury, I'm not sure if you're supposed to be putting on that much weight on your legs. I feel like he's overcompensating to be like, you know what, my legs are so big now that mentally, I'm good. No, he's missed a bunch of games already for management reasons, and that's not good because he's been out a while. The second person that surprised me is Jordan Poole. I'm seeing all these highlights on social media of Jordan Poole putting it behind his back, spinning around, popping a layup or a three. And then I check the scoreboard and it's like Jordan Poole 9 points, Jordan Poole 11 points. I'm like, hold on. Since when are we doing highlights for guys who are dropping 9 and 11 points? Yes, sometimes they'll get to 24. But I'm like, this is crazy. And I don't know if you guys know, the Lakers, as we're doing this podcast right now, the Lakers have less losses than the Golden State Warriors, and Jordan Poole just got this bag of money. Those two players are surprising me, in a negative way, just because you got a bag of money. I'm seeing these crazy highlights. You're not doing that great, and then Kawhi just not playing. I thought he was going to be playing a lot, and but yeah, my biggest surprise is Lauri Markkanen though, and I'm happy for him, I guess, because I should be happy for someone in Utah.
Well, I'll touch on Jordan Poole in a second, but Lauri Markkanen, big surprise. I think Utah is a surprise, but Lauri Markkanen, big surprise. He's averaging almost 22 a game, almost 10 boards a game. He couldn't even sniff at those numbers when he was in Chicago, his 1 year stint in Cleveland. But here's the thing. It's not just about what he's doing. It's how he's doing it. Listeners, if you haven't watched a Markkanen game, I'm going to say a Markkanen game, not a Utah game, a Lauri Markkanen game this season, treat yourself. This man is playing with confidence. He's looking dominant at times. He's like a 7-foot winged unicorn. You know, he can shoot the ball. He's catching loops. He's driving to the basket, finishing with a dunk.
You gotta come with a different nickname. There's already a unicorn.
Well, that's the thing. Interesting fact here, because we like nicknames around here. Lauri Markkanen, people call him the Finnisher because he's Finnish. He's from Finland. I like that. I like that.
Finnisher. That's good.
But the original was Laurie Bird, after, of course, Larry Bird. And, of course, the alternative to that is Laurie Legend, because, of course, you have Larry Legend. I'm like, okay, I guess. Okay, a white guy that can shoot. He can shoot the three. But, yeah. Jordan Poole, the one thing I've learned about Jordan Poole is that Jordan Poole plays for the crowd, a certain type of crowd. Well, certain people in the crowd. If there are a certain type of person in the audience, in the crowd, in the stands, Jordan Poole goes off. I'm very interested in this. I need to pay more attention to this. I won't go into more detail just because, again, morality and stuff. High and Low has a moral code here. But it is of note that Jordan Poole, his best performances can be connected to certain type of people that have been in the crowd watching. He's a bit of a show off.
I like it because we had the Harden thing where James Harden, wherever there's a top 5 strip club in that city, his numbers did they increase or they decrease?
They increased.
They increased, right? So there just hasn't been a graph or a poll yet for this, but we've seen clips and we've seen the thirst and we've seen his performance. So, yeah.
I respect Jordan Poole so much. Yeah. Hey, if you can get knocked out, get a huge bag, and then just drop 30 at a thirst, a thirsty 30. Jordan Poole drops thirsty 30s.
Waiting for it. Because that Orlando just whopped him. So waiting for it.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break from the surprises. When we come back, we're gonna wrap up with our disappointments. Got to talk about disappointments real quick. We'll be right back with more High and Low. And we are back. I'm here with Steven, Leslie, Esteban, Hey, listen, we've looked at our surprises, but you can't talk about the highs without touching on the lows. See what I did there? The universe is all about balance. So it's only right that we turn our attention to the disappointments, the teams or the players that have been lackluster. And so as we wrap up the episode, let's focus on that. What team or player has been the biggest disappointment to you so far this season, this young season?
If you were to guess, where do you think I'm going to go? What direction? What team or player?
Ooh, I think you go team in the East.
Okay. Well, the team that I'm disappointed in and player with an S, players, is a 7-foot power forward and a 7'1" center that play in Minnesota. So,
speaking of bullying,
man,
go on.
I tried not to. I said I like the roster. Y'all got this major acquisition for the most draft picks and players this offseason, and you guys are a lackluster team. You got Towns doing press conferences, bashing his best player on what he eats. You don't do pressers together. And I expected when this trade happened, you don't have to play any more defense on the opposing big. So you're going to come out like Giannis, who we mentioned, or Jokic, who Mitch would mention. But nope, I don't see that. I see the same 25 and 12 or whatever you're getting. And you're losing games. You have as much wins as losses right now. The team's in turmoil. You got D'Angelo Russell tweeting stuff, cryptic tweets. I'm like, what is going on? Anthony Edwards, he did a presser 2 nights ago with, I don't know this guy's name, Jordan McLaughlin or something like that. He's on the bench. It was after their Suns lost, and he summed it up. They did it together. I don't know the last time I've seen a starter do a presser with a 6th man or 7th man, and the 7th man was speaking, and Edwards took the stat sheet and said, "Hey," interrupted him and said, "Hey, we're in the minus. All the starting 5 are all in the minus for plus minus." And he said the Suns starting 5 are all in the plus. And then he said our bench, Minnesota's bench, is all in the plus. So he said, when we're in the game, we're causing the team to lose. And when you're in the game, you guys are causing us to win. I'm like, this is another cryptic thing. And they're bashing each other with press conferences. And I'm like, this is crazy. This team blew up with that trade because they're not as good. Oh, I don't know if they're as good as they were last year, because we have to see the whole season. But it's not working out. If your 2 top offensive players are doing this against each other, your defensive player, he was getting cooked in the FIBA or whatever he was doing in the offseason. So, and I've been saying he's been getting cooked by other bigs in the regular season. And we haven't seen those kind of matchups yet because they're losing to lesser teams. It's not a good look, and I'm disappointed, but I'm happy because I don't like Gobert, and you guys know that. But yeah, I'm disappointed, and especially to see Anthony Edwards pull up the stat sheet and say that out loud. Oh my goodness, that locker room, that coach. I don't know, man.
It's hard for me to believe that you're disappointed, because that would lead me to believe that you were expecting more from this team. But I just feel like the second that they acquired Rudy Gobert, you're just like, nah, to the gulag for this team.
No, but I was like, this is sick, because I like Anthony Edwards as like the next thing in the NBA. He's exciting. And I'm like, you have Towns, who was talking all that stuff in the postseason. And then I'm like, okay, now they added a defensive player of the year, multiple defensive player of the year. So this should unlock it right there. Like this team should be, if you're playing 2K, bro, it's a wrap. You got a crazy defender, and you got Anthony Edwards, who can play defense as well. But offensively, he's going to go off. Towns going to go off. And Gobert should just play D.
Hey, you know what? I think we might have predicted this. Remember, we had an episode where we're talking about potentially breaking up dynamic duos. I think I came up with a scenario in which Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns were going at each other, but it's just because they only wanted one Anthony in town.
Well,
no pun intended.
The Anthony in town is going to be Cat, because they gave him an extra a bag.
Yeah.
Towns gonna be like, no, not Towns. Anthony Edwards gonna be like, listen, I already had a movie. I already had Dunk of the Year. Time for me to get my exposure somewhere else.
Yeah, they better be careful because that's the Anthony that I would want to keep.
Yes.
I'll talk about Golden State for a second. See, Golden State, Steph, Dre, Clay. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. You know, much like Milwaukee, I expected middle of the pack vibes. But this team is just way too close to the bottom. I know it's too early to hit the panic button. You know, it's too early to throw in the towel. But I mean, defend your title with some dignity. Float in the middle at least. You know, they're close to the bottom of the league in opponents' points, middle of the league in terms of offensive rating, close to the bottom for defensive rating. I mean, this is very uncharacteristic for the Warriors to have any stretch like this aside from their vacation season. I don't know. Again, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. I'm pretty sure that this will turn around at some point, but it's rough to watch, especially given the fact that they're the defending champions. But yeah, I mean, it could be worse. They could be Minnesota. So
Why the fuck I can't shoot 3-point shots?
this brings us to the end of this episode of High and Low. So thank you, Steven. Great conversation today. Hey, subscribe to High and Low anywhere you find podcasts and make us a part of your weekly routine. You know where to find us. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. Again, the links are in the show notes. So where can listeners find you, Steven?
You can find me on Instagram at Esteban_Roy, ESTEBAN_ROY.
There you go. There you go. No Big Honey this week. You know, you go change his name to Big Honey on
Honey
Twitter.
is thirsty. What is he?
Thirsty Hero?
Thirsty Hero. What's going on here? See, I miss a couple episodes and guys just get crazy.
I don't know where Big Honey came from. I can't even remember. Episode spiraled. And next thing you knew, he was Big Honey on Instagram or Twitter. I can't remember which one it was. So once again, music is by Live of the Enjoy Music Group. You can find Live on Twitter and on Instagram at LYVE. Additional music by Sonny Rockwell of The Goodness. You can't find Sonny Rockwell anywhere. Sound design is by Vonn+Abrahamm. This is a Vonn+Abrahamm podcast, just in case you didn't know. So on behalf of Stephen Leslie, I'm Ike Amaechi. Thank you for listening to High and Low. We'll see you next week.
First episode without any teams named that are not in the United States of America.
Wow. We did talk about a Canadian today, though. 9 times?